Okay, fam, welcome back. So today we're going to be going over the Grayscale trusts, and I'm also going to go over a swing trade with you guys that we just put on recently, as well as some data coming up this week. So with that being said, let's get it. All right, so first thing I want to go over here is the swing trade. I'm going to make this brief. So this is basically Serve Robotics, ticker symbol SERV. Basically just put $1,000 into this trade today, as you guys can see. So well, you can't actually see the number here, but I'm sure you guys can imagine what 99 shares times $10.12 comes out to. So why did we decide to take this trade? Well, there's a couple of reasons. Number one, we got the signal back here. A little bit late on this trade, but again, I'm not too worried about that because these things usually, these AI stocks, they usually run much longer than people expect. So you can see the last time that we got one of these golden crosses was all the way back here. Yeah, way back here when Serve was only $2 a share. And again, it had some crazy gap up news. I'm pretty sure there was some kind of news catalyst, but this thing really ran very hard to the upside. It did nearly a 10x. So I'm expecting this thing to probably go to at least, I would say probably somewhere around 15 to 20 bucks within the next 30 days or so. Again, it's pretty basic. We got the trading signal here. Okay, we basically consolidated for weeks and weeks and weeks. And then boom, what happened? It was starting to take off. What did we see last time? Pretty much the same thing. Right before this thing took off, it kind of consolidated for weeks and weeks and weeks, and then boom, took off. The other thing I want to point out here is if I go over to the, not the weekly time frame, the daily time frame, you can see that we also have the golden crosses here, pretty much right near the bottom on those two indicators. And then we just recently got a golden cross on the daily time frame that's extremely bullish. Okay, and we got a follow-up candle too, which is also good. So yeah, that's pretty much the trade right now. We're looking probably to make at least 20 to 30% on this, which means it really only has to go to about 12 to 13 bucks. Okay, so and we literally, I mean, guys, if you don't know what the strategy is, we literally just made a video about that this morning, as a matter of fact, so go check it out. If you want to learn how to swing trade and make $100 a day or whatever your desired amount is, you know, it doesn't have to be 100. You can make 50 a day or 20 a day or 500 a day, whatever you want. You just would need to have the required capital and the strategy and discipline in place to be able to achieve that. Okay, so not a lot of news catalysts going on today or tomorrow, but in terms of catalysts on Wednesday, so we have the Fed meeting minutes right here, FOMC minutes, okay? 11 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. If you trade in these markets, adjust your time accordingly, but you probably already know that because if you trade, you've probably been trading for a while. So yeah, basically my expectation for the FOMC here is that they're going to come out and tell us something dovish, and the markets are going to pop to the upside as a result of that. And then on Thursday, we get the, in my opinion, probably the biggest jobs data of the week, or not jobs data, but the biggest, basically the biggest, well, there is continuing jobless claims. I'm expecting that to probably stay relatively flat. I don't think it's really going to go anywhere. But in terms of core CPI and CPI, this is a big thing that people are talking about. People are worried more so about the core CPI than the headline CPI, again, because the core CPI is very sticky. Well, I shouldn't say it's sticky, but people think it's sticky. It's very stubborn. Look, I'll say this. I am expecting both headline and core inflation to come in at, well, I shouldn't say at, to come in below expectations. Usually because once we get past that 3% zone, that's usually when we get a kind of like a breakdown of the inflation. And I'm not expecting this thing to just fall straight into deflation or into deflation in general, but just understand once we get past that kind of major stopping area, which was the 3%, we get past that, then, you know, this thing tends to come down much more easily after that. So yeah, I'm expecting inflation to come in slightly lower than expectations. The initial jobless claims to come in, let's see what we got here. Initial jobless claims to probably come in mostly flat. Continuous jobless claims probably coming in mostly flat. And then core CPI, I'm probably expecting this to come in at, like, I'd say probably 2.9, maybe 3%, somewhere there. And then the FOMC, I'm expecting those minutes to be dovish. So, a lot of people are worried like, oh, the Fed's cutting rates right now. Inflation's going to resurge. Guys, look, I can't guarantee this, but I'm pretty confident inflation's not going to resurge, and I'm going to tell you why. Okay. And I can go over the charts with you guys in a later video on this. Probably do this on the monthly macro video that we do. But usually when the Fed raises rates, it takes a little time for inflation to top out. What does this mean? That inflation is a lagging indicator to the Fed rate hikes. Okay. So now that basically what I'm saying is because inflation did not top out until after the Fed had their rates basically at all-time highs. What I'm expecting here is that the inflation rate will not truly bottom out, if there is going to be a bottom. In my opinion, it's not going to be a resurgence until the Fed is done cutting rates. Okay, we're well into the rate cuts. Look, I mean, inflation's not going to resurge overnight. That just doesn't happen. Again, usually it takes time for the effects of the rate hikes and the rate cuts to either basically heat up or cool inflation. In this case, people are worried about inflation heating up. I just don't see that happening, y'all. I mean, maybe inflation resurges like in 9 or 12 months from now, but as of right now, I don't think that's a concern. I don't think that's a concern of the Fed either, because if they were concerned about it, they would not have cut. And the market is assuming like, oh yeah, well the Fed made a mistake. Yeah, well, the Fed didn't make a mistake. I'm pretty confident about that. It's just people think they do because they think they know better than the Fed. And, the old saying, don't fight the Fed, right? So people are trying to assume whatever it is they think the Fed is up to, and they're probably going to get it wrong, would be my guess. The soft landing is still intact, in my opinion, and I think people are worried for nothing. So, but we'll see on Wednesday and Thursday. I'm pretty confident I'm going to be right about this. Okay, so LTCN 13 to 15, we're still kind of in that area. It is still in that buy zone. Again, you guys can buy if you want to. If not, or you got your bags loaded already, then you got nothing to worry about here. 25 to 27 would be the first target. 54 is the second target. And then you have kind of that 7,500 to 135, 3 to 400, and then the all-time highs at 510. So 88% and then roughly about 290% here. Again, we are getting this MACD golden cross starting to slowly form here. You can see the histogram colors are slowly moving towards the break even. I can show you guys right now what happens when that happens. So you see it going from the dark red to the light red here. Well, guess what? Usually when it gets to the break even, we turn green. You know what that means? That means that cryptos go up. Okay, so BCHG, next one. I also did want to point out that Bitcoin has recently popped a little bit. Again, this is not about Bitcoin, but I do think Bitcoin's in the process right now of creating those higher highs and higher lows that we talked about before. Everybody was like, oh god, it got rejected off 66,000, but they don't realize, like, traders look at this and they say, okay, well, Bitcoin's got to create a higher low before it can go higher, right? Because these things move in waves. Higher highs, higher lows on the bull trend, and lower highs and lower lows on the bear trend. In this case, it's the bull trend. So that higher low has got to be formed. All right, so BCHG 540 to roughly about 590 here, and then the first target 1030 to 1270, and then you got another second target 18 to 20. 24, again, this is kind of more so for swing trading or basically stacking up your shares. If you don't care about this, you want to hold for that 10, 20, 30x, then that's fine. This is kind of relevant in that situation because you may want to consider scaling out as the price of these trusts go up, but everybody's got a different strategy. Some people just want to sell at the top 100%. Some people want to do 50-50. Some people want to, cut out of their trade and 25% increments. Everybody's different. So this is kind of for people that want to scale out. So 123, 250, 319. Again, the all-time high for BCHG is $60. Or I should say the current all-time high. Okay, so HZEN still sitting at that kind of accumulation zone. So 350 to 410. And then we got roughly about $6.80 to $8. And then you have 1050 up there at the top of the wedge, which again is the target for the wedge. So 125 and 190% respectively. All right, so ETCG, we're still kind of consolidating in this bearish descending triangle, but again, you got to understand Bitcoin has to make its all-time high before Ethereum can go on to make its all-time high. That's usually how this works, okay? So it goes Bitcoin, Ethereum, and then the alts. So it's possible Ethereum could still bleed a little bit while Bitcoin's pushing to all-time highs, and then when Bitcoin tops out, kind of consolidates at the top, whatever that's going to be, 120, 180, 200, 500,000, a million, whatever. Eventually it'll consolidate at the top, and then boom, while it's consolidating, basically Ethereum and altcoins will fly to the moon, and then, we'll kind of maybe have a mid-cycle dump of some kind, or maybe not. And then eventually, right around the end of next year, theoretically, everything should dump into a bear market, for crypto at least. Okay, so support here, I'm looking anywhere between 740 to kind of that $10 area. I know it's a pretty broad range, but this price action is a little janky. It's hard to really position in something like that. So 13 to 1570, and then 1775 to roughly about 20. If I were just to measure kind of from the current price, and again, the current price is pretty much about as low as you're going to get on this particular zone here. Roughly about 100% and 162% respectively. ETH. So the white line is kind of what I'm looking at here, 1840, 1850. I'd say anywhere between there and the EMA's goodbye area, 2150 to about that 1850. And then you got 2350 to 28, and then that cup and handle target up there at 47. So we'd be looking at roughly about 50% and 150% respectively. So you can see this kind of big cup and handle pattern here. I really got to zoom out a little bit more to make it obvious. Nice big fat cup, handle, boom. And then you got your target up there. Okay, so GBAT, this one has also had a nice little pump. Again, GBAT has kind of really not been doing much. We got two series of double bottoms here. So we got this, and then we got these two right here. Last time this thing had a double bottom, and it's really not obvious, but you can see these two wicks here. I consider that to be a double bottom. This thing flew off the handle to the upside. So support here, roughly about $4.50 to $5. Resistance, $7.70 to $9.80, and then the all-time high is up there at $32. So measured moves here roughly about 93% and 560%. And I don't know if you guys notice this, but you see a lot of these RSI golden crosses. The MACD is about to golden cross on a lot of these. It's almost like the crypto market itself knows that the bull run is coming. This is like the market telling you, like, hey, guess what? The bull run's most likely right around the corner. But, everybody and their brother on X is bearish on crypto, and they're like, oh, crypto's not going anywhere. Ugh. Usually when that happens, the opposite usually happens. That's kind of how that works. If you guys ever seen the Wall Street cheat sheet, if you have not, I will show it to you on the next video. But it basically kind of goes over the mentality of most of retail traders. Okay, so 36 to 42 here at support, and then the all-time high for File G or Phil G, whatever, $400. So measured move here is going to be 1,140%. And again, once again, you can see the MACD is starting to curl up on this one too, on GLIV. Pretty much painting the same picture here that pretty much all of crypto is kind of looking like it wants to pop at this point. So $12 to $15 at support, and then the all-time high up there at 80. 450% move. Okay, G-Link, this one's interesting. So we had a nice little W pattern kind of breaking out of this trend line here, but we are still stuck below the EMA's resistance. That does kind of happen. The bulls and bears, like the bulls will pick it up off the demand zone, and then they'll kind of fight it out right in between. The bulls and the bears will fight it out right in between a big zone, and then the move is usually, the direction is usually picked. Once one crowd of traders or investors overpowers the other, in this case, I think the bulls are easily going to squeeze the life out of the bears when we get these God candles that go to the upside. I think that's probably what's going to happen. So 39 to 45 here at support, 65 to 85 at resistance, and then 220 all the way up there at those highs. So you got 87% and 395% respectively. All I got to say about the bears in this situation is if you're a bear out there, dude, I really, really hope you got your stops in place, because if you don't, dude, you're probably going to get absolutely destroyed. I mean, these markets, if you've never even traded in crypto before or been in crypto, this is your first time in crypto, going short is like one of the worst things you could do, in my opinion. Again, that's not financial advice, but I would not be shorting the markets at the end of the halving year after the spot Bitcoin ETFs just got approved, after the Fed's cutting rates. China just printed like $1 trillion in the stimulus. Yeah, I wouldn't be a bear right now. I really wouldn't. I think that's a bad idea. That's a recipe for disaster, in my opinion. So 300 to 350 going to be that support there. So we got this falling wedge. You can see it plain as day. The target is the top of the wedge, so that's that all-time high up there at 580. So maximum move here, roughly about 95%. Okay, so GXLM, it does seem like we want to hold here at 1440. So you got 1440, 2025, and then 24 respectively. Those are kind of the pick-me-up zones as the thing moves up. The resistance here, 53 to 58, and then we have, I'd say, 69, 70, somewhere in there, kind of at that swing high. All right, so 288% and 366% move. Mana. I do think Mana is going to be another big winner, not just the trust, but the actual token itself during this bull run, because again, Decentraland did a 200x last cycle from the low to the high. So 200x, if you know anything about crypto, 200x is like a multi-grand slam. It's like a big deal, really, really big deal, and it's rare. It's pretty rare to get those kind of gains in crypto. You really got to know your stuff and get lucky in some cases to even get those. So you got your golden cross here, same story as the other ones. So support here at 1035, resistance 1750 to 2030, and then the all-time high all the way up there at 70. Again, this is just the current all-time high. These things get easily smashed right past those. So 100%, 620%. And then Zcash still kind of going sideways. This thing is, I mean, am I surprised it's moving sideways for this long? Not really. I mean, this thing moved from the bear market lows sideways basically for almost 14, 15 months before it eventually had to move up. So, yeah, I mean, June to October, that's, what is that, 4 months? So that's really not all that long compared to how long this thing usually goes sideways. So 315 at support there. 440 to $5. I would say 315 to $5, in my opinion. Anywhere in there is going to be a good place to buy, because you can see the price action really is actually kind of going in between this area, between these two white lines right here. We just kind of had this support zone here as a flip zone, because you can see that swing low, and then it kind of tried to retest and got rejected. Okay, so yeah, that's kind of the buy area there, and then you have $8 to $9.60 and 10.25 up there at that swing high. So maximum moves here, I'd say, is going to be roughly about 200 to 221%. And keep in mind, this is not the all-time highs. These are just kind of those local levels. We will go over the all-time highs and the potentially maximum profit targets, or I mean, they could even go beyond the maximum profit targets in a separate video. So anyways, hope you all enjoyed this content. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see y'all later. Peace.